Condolences, Adam. I suppose, how'd you read the game, especially that third quarter? Probably was where the game went.
Yeah, the third quarter was obviously really important for them. They kicked 4 goals to maybe 2, heading into the wind, which wasn't as strong as it was in the first quarter, but it's certainly favouring that end still. And so, I mean, ultimately that was probably the game. Interestingly, they didn't kick a goal in the last quarter, and we managed a couple that were one ourselves. So, the second half was a little bit different at the first half in terms of how it played out. But obviously that was really important for them. A couple of centre bounce goals in that quarter, 4 in total for the game, really costly for us.
I suppose I just want to touch on that moment where the lights turn off and cause a bit of darkness there for a little bit. I know they kick a goal during that time. Are you happy with the game still continuing?
I didn't. I would have liked that if they called it off, but clearly they didn't. Look, it didn't hurt us. It wasn't a factor in them kicking a goal, I don't think.
So how do you stop those runs of momentum? They did have those sort of 2 quick periods. They kicked 5 goals and they had another one. They kicked 4 goals.
Yeah.
What I suppose do you tell the boys in terms of how to sort of stop that?
Well, we've got to be able to manage those moments, and they'll say the same thing, I'm sure, in that both teams are capable of scoring in short bursts, and during those moments when the opposition have momentum, you need to be able to minimise the damage. And we weren't able to do that in those 2 patches, and so we continually work on that, whether it's a structural thing, whether it's just a general intent, effort and attitude thing. Is there things that we could have been doing a little bit better with the ball, without the ball? So we'll review those strongly. It's usually not one thing. Structurally, they certainly made a change in the first quarter, as did we in the second quarter. That kind of helps, but it's not the panacea. We continue to work through those things.
How did you find Stringer's first game?
Look, I thought he had moments. Yeah, I thought he was really good. I thought his pressure was pretty strong. Showed great intent. Had a few shots. Didn't finish his work, but it was a pretty good start. Something to build on.
And Hogan obviously came back with 4 goals, so it looks like once they get a little bit more time together, hopefully they'll come together.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's certainly what we're thinking. And first game in for both of those boys. Kieran Briggs back in for his first game in three odd weeks. I thought he competed really well against Meek, who's a really good ruckman. Both of those guys had their moments. So, look, the more they play, the better they'll get. That's the hope. And, we'll have an 8-day break and playing West Coast at home, which will be a challenging game for us. So we're looking forward to that.
You've also obviously played a really hot game and then a wet game at the MCG, now a windy game this week.
Yep.
How have you found the ability for the guys to sort of handle those different conditions? And
I think we've adapted pretty well. There'll be moments in the game, particularly in that second quarter and the third quarter, where we could have done things a little bit differently. Maybe the conditions weren't quite as we didn't play the conditions quite as well as what we needed to. But all in all, I think we've adapted quite well, and we need to be able to do that. We've got no choice, have we?
The pressure was great in the first probably quarter and a half.
Yep.
Just a case of not quite being able to just maintain that sort of red line intensity.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Hawthorn certainly found another gear in their contest. Halfway through that second quarter, I think perhaps for the last 15 minutes of that quarter, they were able to sort of find a few easy feedback options and use their shape quite well. Certainly in the second half, they were able to do that, which rendered our pressure a little less impactful. But I thought our intent around the ball was really quite good for the whole game. I don't think we ran out of steam. We're a really fit team, so I'm not worried about that at all.
In the third quarter, how did they stop you running carry game, which is so effective in the first quarter?
Well, I think, there's a few things. We played a little bit too straight. We forced the handball a little bit too much when it wasn't open, and their come forward defence was really good. They had good depth and then come forward. Were able to make a couple of good plays on the ball. So there's a few things that we need to tidy up. There'll be a few things that they're very happy with.
You guys have played in the last 2 years and you've got close both times and just haven't been able to get the line. What makes the ball so hard to play, specifically in Tassie?
I reckon they're hard to play everywhere. And they've certainly become that over the last 18 months. We've had tight games against them for the last 2 years. They clearly play here a lot, so they know the stadium really well. Maybe the conditions were slightly different to what they're used to. Maybe they battled with that in the first quarter, but they certainly responded in that second quarter quite well. So, I mean, they're a very talented team. They're well coached, clearly. They've got, you know, really strong structures, good in contest. So, you know, they're a very, very good team. We know that.
How challenging is it as a coach in one of those games where it's obviously a highly one scoring end? Like, how tough is it to move those magnets and adjust?
Oh, it's just a matter of whether or not you think it's going to have an impact, whether you're going to put one behind the ball like they did in the first quarter, or whether you hold your nerve and hold your 6-6-6, whether you back your offence in to be able to generate some metres and some territory into the wind. Are they scoring? How many entries are they getting? You know, there's a combination of factors. So late we went to one behind the ball, but it didn't really stem the flow. I think they might have kicked 2 goals in the last couple of minutes anyway. So, you know, as I said, we'll review those things and try and learn and improve from them.
Just on Finn Kelly, I thought he had a really great start to the game.
Yep.
It was really impactful every time he had the ball. Were you guys trying to keep that going with him? Is it a case of him maybe tiring, or is it just maybe closing game space?
Oh, no, McGuinness went to him after quarter time and did a really good job. So, you know, Finn was trying. We put him in a couple of different positions. He was trying to do some things as a midfielder that we were asking him to do, and he's a young player who's rarely been tagged before. And so it was a great lesson for him. That'll happen more often. We understand his quality, and his impact on the game in that first quarter was pretty significant, hence why they made that move. And it's one of those things where you walk out, you didn't get the result, but you learn a few lessons along the way, and hopefully you can improve. Thanks, gents.